Hey, soul warriors, your inner child and your ego are two sides of the same coin, and unlocking their profound connection could be the next level up that you've been seeking in your spiritual awakening. Discover the transformative process to integrate these core aspects of your psyche and experience life with newfound freedom and authenticity. We're going to get demonized for parts of what we're going to say because this is very... The ego and the inner child are usually thought of as two totally separate things, and they really are, in my experience working with it for over 20 years, the two sides of the same coin.
Yeah. I know that for me, when we started talking about it, to combine the two, like it be two sides of a coin, like you said, brought me another layer of it. It made like sense and not really at the same time. So it brought me back to some inner child stuff that I was working on back in the day. And I had a bunch of aha moments by combining the two versus thinking of them separately. It was really interesting to go through the process. So.
Yeah, I think it's a big miss, and you really can get to those layers. Because when I first started working on my inner child, I was going and telling her she was okay and she was safe now and I've got her. And I feel like the ego was behind me going, don't listen to her. We've listened to adults before and we always get burned, and I'm the one that protects you. And the inner child's like, oh yeah, I'm doing nothing because I don't know. And then I'm working with the ego, and the ego is like, because I'm protecting the inner child back here. Yeah. So it's just like, I almost think of it as the ego is the shadow side of the child. Like the inner child is the, the lost, the scared, the parts of you that were like taught beliefs that didn't serve you, that scared you, that put you into that shell. And the ego's like, I know I'm here to protect the body, but now I'm here and I'm going to protect you too, inner child, because none of this is working. And so they get bigger and badder and almost rebellious at first, like the teenage years, and then they become the big bad adult. And this is why we're always taught to demonizing the ego and, stomping it down and getting rid of it, and don't befriend it because that makes no sense.
And the other part of it is like that the inner child protects your body. That hit me in a certain way, that's for sure, because I never looked at it that way either. So when combining the two and seeing that was actually the job. But for me, for years, I've been doing inner child work because of giving my background, the abusive parent and all that stuff. So I was doing a lot of that. And I never combined the contract that I had with my mom and the inner child and the things that I came to experience until I got right. It was just like I had so many aha moments I can't even tell you, because how I was looking at the work with my inner child related to my mom just kind of took a 360, man. Like I really understood what I actually came here to experience with her and her experience with me through looking at my inner child differently. And that just kind of like brought me to this whole different thing. And just, it was just an amazing thing to experience and really sit with it and hopefully get to the point where I'm communicating with my inner child, my soul self, and just my being, so that I can really integrate that and reconnect that, to the way it should be, not this other parts of it.
Okay, so let's dial back to what she's talking about. So this is work that we started 17 years ago, and she just reread it in the last 48 hours. So it's this whole thing that's been a work in progress and then revisiting and back and forth. And this is how spiritual awakenings work, is going through all the cycles. And this is how everything works, is going through different levels of, what you consider your broken parts or where you need to do your work. So there's 3 parts of you. There's your soul self. Some people call it just your soul or your higher self, whatever you want to call it. There is you, and there's your inner child and your ego. think of that again as one coin. So you come in whole, and we're always telling you you're still whole, which you are. But when you hit around 6 or so, for you it was much younger, around 6 or so, when you enter school and start being indoctrinated into this, I have to act this way, be this way, fit in, blend in, listen, and lose my sense of self and become a number alphabetically. That's when it starts fragmenting, like you're, oh, okay, so I'm not supposed to listen to the soul self. I'm not supposed to have fun and be creative and all this. I need to just strictly be logical. So you start separating and breaking away from the soul self a little bit. All these pieces of you are still there. That's why we're always saying you're whole right now. You just need to, as you embrace all of those and integrate them more into how you're living your life, that's the key. So the soul comes in, has your soul blueprint, and we can actually tag the soul blueprint video. So it knows the best life path for you.
It knows everything. It knows from past, present, future, different
other
timelines, all the things. It has all your information.
Exactly. And the ego inner child, their job is to navigate the lovely meat suit that we come in here in and make sure to keep that safe. So when you see like the inner child is like, hovered in a corner hiding, it's hiding because, if a tiger is running at you or a bad guy with a gun and you can go hide somewhere and be quiet and not be seen and not be bothered, then maybe you'll be safe. So it's kind of like that mentality. Yeah. So notice that you will sometimes totally listen to your soul self and make that, best path decision for you. And sometimes you will totally listen to ego/inner child. And you might think that's the wrong one, and it's not, because we are here to experience what happens when you go here, what happens when you go there, what happens when you have them as a full counsel, and listen to both of them as advisors and then make your decision from there.
Right.
What happens, because a lot of times we're ignoring both of them, never mind just siding with one or the other. We're ignoring that divine wisdom, or we're ignoring our body, and we're ignoring the hurt parts of ourselves, because most of the time we're so afraid to go in and talk to the inner child that we'll just ignore them. And then we're wondering why we're not having as much fun and why we're not feeling like we're thriving, but we're scared of what we're going to find there. But the thing is as you start drilling down layers, especially I started with the inner child, should have started with the ego, but I didn't understand what it was because everybody was just demonizing it.
Right.
So once I started befriending the ego and was like, yo, I see you're acting up right now. Like, talk to me. What's going on? Oh my God. Like, I can help you. Like, this is okay. We're all right now. How can we proceed from there? Like, I've got this. Trust me, I will show you. And once the ego started, like, I was gaining trust, then I had better access to the inner child, because the ego wasn't acting like gatekeeper to heal that part of me. The ego at some point was like, yeah, she's scared and I've been acting up about like money or whatever it is, relationships or whatever, because I'm trying to protect you and her. But now here she is, and then I can work on that. And all the belief work I've been doing, I was like, oh, okay. You have an abusive background, so that's been a big part of your work. Yeah. I've come from like, awesome mom, overachiever, has everything together. And I learned to equate my self-worth with I could get stuff done and I could do it well. And so my worth was all in overachieving constantly.
Right.
And if I wasn't doing 8 million things, somewhere a part of me is, you're not enough because you're not doing enough. But I feel like I'm doing too much and I'm falling apart, and trying to hold this perfectionism all together.
Right. It's like two extremes.
Yeah.
We come here to experience where our middle ground is. My experience have been, like you said, a abusive background, and I've spent my entire life trying to figure out where my middle ground is, because I was awake, if you will, because I did listen to my soul self a lot. I was working from that place and with the unseen. So I had that to go with, but at the same time, I had forgotten my contracts with my mother and the what I agreed to play with her and what she agreed to play with me. Mm-hmm. And that's when the inner child came into play for me, because they weren't having fun. They were protecting. They were
Scared for their life.
scared. They were doing all these different things, which then put a lot of stress on the inner child and myself included, body wise. I was getting all kinds of sick and had ailments, physical ailments. So it was just this weird combination of things. But it was because at that point I just had to lean in and know that everything was going to be okay.
You'll reclaim, as you do this work, you will reclaim that feeling in control thing. Like, okay, I've got this. I don't have to be that scared little part of me. I don't have to be the acting all big and bad and defensive and deflecting and all those things, overachieving, coming out fighting because something might be trying to hurt me, even if it's not, just because that's the energy it triggers. Like, I don't have to do all of those things anymore. And once your inner child is like, skipping through the park, having fun, and your ego is like, oh, okay, I just have to be in charge of the body. I will let you know if something is hot. I will let you know if I just twisted my ankle so you can take care of it, because now I'm trusting that you're going to take care of those things.
And the thing with the ego is one of its major fears is death. Mm-hmm. Anything that changes, that gives you that ending death feeling, the ego absolutely despises that.
Fights to the death. That's where that phrase fits.
Absolutely. So being aware of that within ourselves and making it comfortable and reassured that it doesn't have to activate all other types of behaviors or activate your inner child to have a tantrum, that puts you in a better place as well.
Yeah. So when you're speaking to them just as different age progressions, how you would a parent, a loving parent of a teenager or even of a young adult or of a child, you would be loving and compassionate and understanding. That's how you get through. Mm-hmm. That's how you get through to them. That's how you make them feel safe. That's how you make them feel seen. That's how you make them feel heard and finally protected, so they don't have to do that anymore. They don't have to hide and they don't have to fight any longer. And this is just unraveling the parts of you and being like, oh, that came from there. And I didn't get mad at my mom when I realized that. My mom taught me amazing things, and I choose to put it in overdrive because, hey, I liked the feeling when I did good things, so I'm just going to keep doing more and more of that. We go off on the tangents. Like when I make myself big and bad to my mom when I got a little older, I could protect myself better. So I'm going to make myself big and bad and come out fighting all the time. And then I don't have to go to that extreme. I can, like you said, live in that middle ground and make it okay. So this is all the work that you're doing. And I'd really like you to look at where you're codependent with things. And I know a lot of people I'm not codependent. And we're all codependent in certain areas, unless you're super, super advanced.
This is where being super honest with yourself kind of takes hold, because I was one of those people. I'm not codependent or any of that. In looking really deeply and honestly and in a very raw way, I figured out and saw that, I was having some codependent stuff going on. It pissed me off when I found out. But, it's there. And being aware of that, impressing upon you that when you take a really good, honest, raw look at yourself and where you sit in life and where you want to go, that's when you're able to understand, damn, I need to go left instead of right now. Or I need to go straight, because you have the full picture at that point, especially if your inner child, your ego, and your soul self, and you have solidified and have come and have put it to the forefront of your mind, the contracts, the experiences, the knowing, having the soul self navigate you because they know all the information. It's so much easier than sitting in the resistant part of life. Mm-hmm. And I know it's hard. I get that it's hard, but it's a lot less of an issue when you work from from that place.
Right. And just to pop back to codependency is when you're outsourcing your power to people and things outside of you. So you don't have to like, oh, what the clinical definition, screw that. I don't need a diagnosis. Codependency is any time where you're like, okay, I'm working harder and I'm doing better because I get more praise. I get more recognition. So I feel better. I feel more whole when people are approving and thinking I'm awesome. So then I'm like, yep, I'm awesome. Look at all the evidence. Or, I need that relationship so I can feel loved and not feel lonely. Like, how do I do that? How do I source that from myself? And then everything else is just complementary. So that's what I mean by codependency. Yeah. And also a word of caution, when you're doing this work, don't rush in and say, here's the soul self, they're in charge. Because the ego will be like, yeah, no. And the inner child is like, who the hell is that? Because that was a long time ago that everybody was all together as one unit. And that's just like stranger danger all over again. So you want to like gradually, as you build trust with these parts of you, be like, all right, do you want to meet somebody? Like, this is fun. And this is like, my Yoda, and they have like all this cool information and they can help us make awesome decisions. So we all don't have to do that anymore. And they'll be like, okay. And have a nice little meet and greet. And ease in and get them to know each other again and build that trust with your soul self. Your soul self will know exactly what to say and how to do this. It will come in very gentle and whatever needs to just integrate in for you.
And the inner child will recognize your soul self.
Yeah, you know how some kids like to just see you and they run up and they're like, oh, and other people like, it's because they know when they see a part of energy of that's their own, that's part of them, and they'll gravitate towards it. But if trying to force it on as this is the new person in charge, not going to go well.
I got to watch that with my niece.
Yes.
She's always asking for me. And at the same time, when I'm physically around her, she's always giving me the peripheral.
Or she's doing this.
Or she's doing that, and like makes it known that she knows that I'm there, but she doesn't want me. So she doesn't want to show it. So
it's funny.
That's what it feels like my inner child is like. It's like it knows I'm there, but it always does this, but always very conscious and loving and asking about me. So my niece reflects that for me, which is interesting. I like to goof around with her and say, I love you. And she's like, but then I'm walking out the door and she's asking her mom, where's Titi going?
Yeah. When's she coming back?
When's she come back? Well, I want to talk to her.
And this is why we feel conflicted half the time, because we're like, yeah, I like that, but no, like, I think so, but no, or the ego's like, we don't know them. And they're like, okay, but so these are all the parts of us, just getting them back online. Yeah. Because you're actually denying your evolution when you're playing the victim or being confused and not taking full responsibility for, your mental, your physical, and your emotional, your energetic landscape. Like, that's your job. All this other spiritual stuff, they're saying, oh, go do this, go do that, just get this crystal. Like, that's all nice. Those are props to help you, like, really focus your energy. But the real work is, like, integrating all this and taking responsibility for it and just being completely 100% whole within yourself. Right. And these pieces and parts will help unlock that wholeness, all the pieces of the puzzle brought back together.
Yeah, I think that's I like that better, that it unlocks all the pieces that are already there of your wholeness. Yeah. Because that's what we present. It's soul intentions. We really, really want you guys to know, sit with that and like take it in that you are already whole. Mm-hmm. And it's just a matter of reconnecting all those parts that make the awesome parts of you shine. That's what juices me up.
Yeah, it does. It's fun. Yeah. And if you need support, just hit us up. Comment, let us know what you're working on, and like and subscribe and share with somebody who this might be useful for, I can't even say it. And share this with somebody that it might be useful for, because they've been maybe struggling with these type of things or looking at the ego and the inner child as separate.
Absolutely.
All right.
That's it for us. All right. Be kind. Peace.
Peace.